The lab hummed, a low, constant thrum. The sound was almost hypnotic, a steady background noise that seemed to sync with the heartbeat of the room. It was the sound of progress, of cutting-edge technology at work. The hum was a reminder of the countless hours of research, the sleepless nights, and the relentless pursuit of scientific breakthroughs. It vibrated in Dr. Ben's chest as he watched the teleportation chamber. Lights flickered, gauges danced. The room was filled with an electric tension, a palpable sense of anticipation. Every flicker of light, every movement of the gauges was a sign that something extraordinary was about to happen. Dr. Ben's heart raced in time with the hum, his breath shallow as he waited for the culmination of years of work. His team, faces tight with anticipation, huddled around the monitors. Each scientist was a master in their field, brought together by a shared vision. They had sacrificed so much to be here, to witness this moment. Their eyes were glued to the screens, their fingers poised over keyboards, ready to react to any anomaly. The room was silent except for the hum and the occasional beep of the machines.
Inside the chamber, a shimmer. The air rippled, distorted. Then, a figure solidified. It was like watching a mirage take form, the air bending and twisting until it resolved into a human shape. The process was both beautiful and terrifying, a testament to the power of their technology. The figure became clearer, more defined, until there was no doubt that it was a person. A woman, Emma, their lead engineer. She had been the first to volunteer for the experiment, confident in their work and in her ability to handle the unknown. Her presence in the chamber was a symbol of their success, a beacon of hope for the future of their research.
She stumbled, hand to her head, eyes wide with wonder. The journey had taken its toll, but she was here. She was real. Her disorientation was expected, a side effect of the teleportation process. But there was something else in her eyes, something that made Dr. Ben's heart skip a beat.
I'm back. I made it. Her voice was strong, but there was an edge to it, a note of uncertainty that hadn't been there before. She looked around the lab, taking in the familiar surroundings, but her gaze seemed distant, as if she was seeing everything for the first time.
Relief washed over Ben. The experiment had worked. Emma was back. But the relief was tinged with a growing unease. Something was off, something he couldn't quite put his finger on. He stepped forward, hand outstretched. He wanted to reassure her, to welcome her back, but also to confirm that she was real, that she was the same Emma who had stepped into the chamber.
Welcome back, Emma. His voice was warm, but there was a question in his eyes, a silent plea for her to be the same person he had known.
But as she met his gaze, a chill snaked down his spine. This wasn't his Emma. There was something different, something fundamentally changed. Her expression was familiar, but her eyes told a different story. Her eyes, though the same color, held a coldness he'd never seen before. They were devoid of the warmth and spark that had always defined her. It was as if a part of her had been left behind, lost in the journey through the teleportation chamber. Dr. Ben's mind raced with questions, but one thought stood out above all. What had they brought back? The Emma that stood before them was different. Her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. Her voice, usually warm, now held a metallic edge.
Where am I?
She asked, her gaze sweeping the lab.
You're back. You teleported. Don't you remember?
She shook her head.
This isn't right. Something's wrong.
Ben exchanged a worried look with his team. The Emma they knew would have been ecstatic. This Emma seemed afraid.
We need to run some tests.
No time. They're coming.
Her eyes flashed with urgency. Over the next few hours, a sense of dread settled over the lab. The new Emma, though physically identical, was a stranger. She spoke of a parallel world, a darker reflection of their own.
They sent me. They want to come here.
Her voice trembled and her words were met with skepticism. Parallel universes? It sounded like science fiction. But the fear in her eyes was real. Then, the strange events began. Equipment malfunctioned, lights flickered erratically. Whispers seemed to emanate from the teleportation chamber, whispers in a language they didn't understand. The rift opened with a deafening roar, a tear in the fabric of reality, spitting light and energy, and through it poured creatures of nightmare. They were humanoid in form, but their skin was a sickly gray, their eyes burning with malevolent intelligence. They moved with an uncanny grace, weapons drawn, their intent clear.
This is your fault. You brought them here.
But Ben wasn't listening. He stood shoulder to shoulder with the other Emma, the fear in her eyes mirrored in his own.
We have to stop them, for both our worlds.
The lab became a battleground. The air crackled with energy blasts. The metallic clang of weapons echoed off the walls. Ben and his team, though outnumbered, fought with the desperation of those with everything to lose. The creatures from the other side were relentless, driven by a hunger that chilled Ben to the bone. They fought like predators, their movements swift and deadly. But Ben and his team had one advantage: knowledge of their own terrain. They used every inch of the lab to their advantage, setting traps, creating diversions, fighting with a ferocity born of despair. The battle raged, but the tide was turning. The air was thick with the smell of burning metal and the cries of the wounded. Explosions echoed across the battlefield, shaking the ground beneath their feet. The once clear skies were now filled with smoke and debris, casting an eerie glow over the war zone. Ben's team, exhausted and wounded, were being pushed back. Their once gleaming armor was now tarnished and dented, a testament to the fierce combat they had endured. Each step they took was a struggle, their bodies screaming for rest, but they knew they couldn't stop. Not now, not when so much was at stake. The creatures from the other side were closing in, their victory all but assured. These monstrous beings, with their grotesque forms and terrifying strength, seemed unstoppable. Their eyes glowed with a malevolent light, and their roars filled the air, drowning out the sounds of the battle. They moved with a purpose, their goal clear, to annihilate everything in their path. And then Ben saw her. Amidst the chaos and destruction, his eyes locked onto a figure he recognized. It was Emma, but not the Emma he knew. This was the other Emma, the one who had come through the rift, the one who had risked everything to help them. The other Emma, the one who had come through the rift, lay pinned beneath a fallen beam, her face contorted in pain. Her once vibrant eyes were now filled with fear and desperation. She struggled to free herself, but the weight of the beam was too much. She was trapped, and time was running out, and standing over her, weapon raised for the final blow, was the leader of the invaders. This menacing figure, with its cold, calculating eyes and sinister grin, was ready to end her life. The weapon in its hand glowed with a deadly energy, and it was clear that one strike would be enough to finish her. In that moment, time seemed to stop. The sounds of the battle faded away, and all Ben could hear was the pounding of his own heart. Every second felt like an eternity as he watched the scene unfold before him. He knew he had to act, and he had to act fast. Ben knew what he had to do. He couldn't let Emma die, not after everything she had done for them. He had to save her, no matter the cost. His mind raced as he formulated a plan, his body tensing with determination. He had to buy her time. He had to distract the leader long enough for her to escape. With a deep breath, he steeled himself and charged towards the danger, his heart pounding in his chest. He knew this could be his last act, but he was willing to make that sacrifice. He had to give her a chance to close the rift that had brought so much pain and destruction to their world. If she could close it, they might have a chance to turn the tide of the battle. They might have a chance to save their world. And so, with every ounce of strength he had left, Ben fought. He fought for Emma, for his team, and for the future of their world. With a roar of defiance, Ben charged forward, his own weapon blazing. The air around him crackled with energy, the very fabric of reality seeming to tremble at his audacity. Each step he took was a testament to his resolve, a declaration that he would not be cowed by the overwhelming odds stacked against him. He didn't stand a chance, but he didn't hesitate. The odds were insurmountable, the enemy relentless, yet Ben's determination was unyielding. He had faced countless dangers before, but this was different. This was a battle for the very soul of humanity, and he was willing to give everything he had to protect it. He wouldn't let her die, not like this. Emma was more than just a comrade. She was a beacon of hope, a symbol of everything they were fighting for. Her life was worth more than his own, and he knew it. The thought of losing her, of failing her, was unbearable. He had to act, and he had to act now. He slammed into the creature, knocking it off balance. The impact reverberated through his body, but he didn't falter. The creature, a monstrous amalgamation of metal and flesh, stumbled back, its glowing eyes flickering with surprise. Ben seized the moment, pressing his advantage with a ferocity born of desperation. The other Emma, seizing her chance, rolled free and scrambled toward the control panel. Her fingers flew over the controls, her mind racing to override the security protocols. She knew that time was running out, that every second counted. The fate of their world hung in the balance, and she couldn't afford to make a mistake.
Ben, no! Her voice echoed through the chamber, a cry of despair that cut through the chaos. She could see the danger he was in, the imminent threat that loomed over him. Her heart ached with the knowledge that she was powerless to help him, that his fate was sealed.
She screamed, her voice raw with anguish, but it was too late. The creature had recovered, its eyes burning with cold fury. It moved with a speed and precision that belied its size, its weapon poised to strike. Emma's scream was a futile plea, a desperate attempt to change the inevitable. The creature recovered, its eyes burning with cold fury. It was a being of pure malice, driven by a relentless hunger for destruction. Its gaze locked onto Ben, and in that moment he knew that there was no escape. The creature's eyes seemed to pierce his very soul, a chilling reminder of the darkness that lurked within the rift. It lunged, its weapon finding its mark. The blow was swift and merciless, a testament to the creature's lethal efficiency. Ben felt the searing pain, a white-hot agony that radiated through his body. He staggered, his vision blurring as the world around him began to fade. Ben felt a searing pain, then nothing. The world around him dissolved into darkness, a void that swallowed him whole. In his final moments he thought of Emma, of the life they had fought so hard to protect. He had given everything for her, for their future. And as the darkness closed in, he found solace in the knowledge that he had done his duty. As darkness closed in, he saw a blinding flash of light. The rift was closing. The light was a beacon, a final burst of hope in the encroaching darkness. It was a sign that their efforts had not been in vain, that the rift would be sealed and their world would be saved. Ben's sacrifice had not been for nothing. He had bought her enough time, but at what cost? The lab was a scene of devastation, the aftermath of a battle that had pushed them to their limits. Emma stood amidst the wreckage, her heart heavy with grief. She had lost so much, but she had also gained something invaluable. A chance to rebuild, to create a future free from the shadow of the rift. The lab fell silent, the only sound the hum of the machinery, now eerily steady. The once chaotic environment had given way to an unsettling calm, a stark contrast to the turmoil that had just unfolded. The machinery, a testament to human ingenuity, continued its work, oblivious to the sacrifices that had been made. The other Emma stood alone, surrounded by the bodies of her enemies and the one man who had sacrificed everything for her. She was safe. Her world was safe. But the cost of that safety weighed heavily on her. The faces of the fallen, both friend and foe, were etched into her memory, a constant reminder of the price they had paid. But as she looked at the spot where Ben had vanished, she knew that some rifts could never be truly closed. The physical rift may have been sealed, but the emotional and psychological scars would remain. Ben's absence was a void that could never be filled, a wound that would never fully heal. His sacrifice was a testament to his bravery, but it was also a source of unending sorrow. The memory of his sacrifice, the echo of his courage, would stay with her forever. A haunting reminder of the day she had stared into the abyss and seen the best and worst of humanity. She had witnessed acts of unparalleled heroism and unimaginable cruelty, and those memories would shape her for the rest of her life. As she stood in the silent lab, she vowed to honor Ben's legacy, to ensure that his sacrifice would not be forgotten. She would carry his memory with her, a beacon of hope in the darkest of times, a reminder that even in the face of overwhelming odds, the human spirit could prevail.